I hate doing YouTube intros, so we're just gonna get into it. I built Tinkaton. This deck is awesome. I've been playing it for a little over a month now, and the entire purpose of the deck is putting Big Girl out, and she does a shit ton of damage. 30 damage for every card in your hand. You draw a fuck ton in this deck. Also, a little bit of a rant real quick before we get into the deck profile, so feel free to skip ahead. I've seen a lot of Pokemon deck profiles, people tend to use the TCG app where they just kind of record the overlay. Don't do that. For the love of God, put your cards out like a normal fucking person and stop recording the terrible deck builder app. That shit is awful. Please, God. Anyway, let's get into it. So, for the Pokemon I'm running, 2 Tinkaton EX. Use your main beat stick. Big Hammer, 30 damage for every card in your hand. You're playing a draw deck, 300 HP. She's bulky. You're fine. You're gonna be cooking. As well as 1 normal Tinkaton. This just gives you draw power, that's all its purpose is. You can use the attack if it gets boss's orders dealt, but most times I don't really do that. I tend to kind of really only get to her if I don't have my Dunsparce line, and I need a consistent way to continue drawing cards every turn, especially if I know my opponent's playing Iono. 1 Tinkatuff. This is a rare candy deck, so running the 1 Tinkatuff is just kind of standard. You need to get to your big body as often as possible. I don't want to waste turns evolving multiple times. Or Tinkatink. I use a 70 HP one because there is a Dragapult at my locals, so kind of just prepare for that. The 60 HP one is better for the utility of grabbing an item from discard pile, and I think the other 60 HP one draws a card, so just use what you're comfortable with. 1 Luminion, this is because it grabs a supporter, but also I'm running the Forest Seal, so putting this on bench, grabbing a supporter like Arven, then using Arven to grab the Seal Stone as well as any item card, attaching the Seal Stone to this, and then going V-Star power into any card you want is broken. And I don't know why more people aren't doing it in this deck in particular. In other decks it's like, you know, sometimes you have too much stuff, but in this deck it's crazy. Some people run the Rotom for the draw 3 end your turn. I don't really like that. I like being able to proceed with my turn and not just giving it to my opponent. 4 the Dunsparce. This is your draw engine, as well as 4 Dunsparce. I'm running the 60 HP one for this because most times it's not gonna stay on your bench more than 1 turn, and it has the free retreat cost. Something that you might run into in this deck if you're running the 70 HP Dunsparce is your opponent might Lysander out, or excuse me, boss's orders out a 70 HP Dunsparce, which has a retreat cost, so now you have to use an energy to put it back on bench, and that's awful. So I prefer using the free retreat cost Dunsparces to get around that. Now if they do it to Luminion, then it's kind of like, whatever. You can run a switch if you're extremely worried about that. Or you could run the Rotom with the Rotom V-Star and use the reversal energy on it to use its attack if you want to. Moving on to the trainers, that's all of the Pokemon. And if you want to, if you're worried about damage to bench, you can run Jirachi or Manaphy. If you're worried about like basic V-Stars, you could run the Spiritomb with the ability that says your opponents, or both players' Pokemon with V abilities don't have abilities. For trainers I'm running 4 Nemona. Draw power, that's it. 1 Miriam. So I thought about Super Rod. It does have better utility being an item so that you can save your supporter in cases where you need to do something like boss's orders or grab an evolution, but Miriam serves the same purpose, and you don't really run any normal energy, you run like 2 and that's it. So Miriam has better utility because it can shuffle back up to 5 Pokemon and then draws 3. So it's just better Super Rod for this deck in particular. And I thought about boosting it to 2, but it's kind of like, whatever. You're really only gonna use it once, maybe, if they kill a Tinkaton. Or Arven. There are a few Tinkaton lists that aren't running this, but I think that this is mandatory in a rare candy deck, such as Tinkaton, because if you don't see rare candy and you see the Tinkaton, you're not doing anything. But this serves the purpose of searching rare candy as well as things like Evo, Devo, Lucky Helmet, things like that, and also Sealstone. 2 Jacques. This is just engine for getting you to Dunsparce, Tinkaton, whatever. You don't really need more than 2, and honestly, you could cut this down if you really wanted to, but it's just a better way to get to your evolutions other than Ultra Ball, because Ultra Ball you have to discard 2. Double Boss's Orders. You don't have a whole lot of control in Tinkaton, so the way that I play the deck is I play it with more control type cards, such as bringing out Pokemon that I think are problems with Boss's Orders and then killing them. So like for Lugia, bringing out the Archeops, killing it. Gardevoir, bring out the Gardevoir, kill it. Or the Monkey Dory, or whatever you feel like is necessary. 2 Artisan. Artisan is really good in this deck because you play it from hand and it constantly benches every turn. Your opponent can get rid of it, but being able to bench a Dunsparce or a Tinkaton every turn without having to use cards in your hand is extremely powerful. Plus, double utility of getting rid of things like Jamming Tower, or when you need to use Evo, or if you want to keep a Lucky Helmet on board. Or if you want to go plus with the Sealstone. Things like that. You also don't really run a lot of rule box Pokemon that you could bench. Like, for example, the Luminion is really the only thing in the deck that you can't bench with Artisan, so it's fine. Or Rare Candy. This is self-explanatory. Or Buddy Buddy Poffin. Obviously, getting to your Dunsparce engine is key to this deck. Also, because this benches 2, it's better than Nest Ball. Nest Ball you don't really want to see too much, but you still run it. 4 of it, as a matter of fact, because getting the engine is extremely important. The faster you can set up, the better off you're going to be. And then 2 Ultra Ball. This is just in case you're in a bad spot, but you have an Arven, so you can get to an Ultra Ball and then get to a Tinkaton if you need to. 1 Hyper Aroma. This card is crazy. So Arven actually opens up a couple of 1-card combos for your deck. It gets to this, any tool, so like the Forest Stone. It gets to Evo and then Earthen Vessel. It's crazy. I'll showcase them in a second as well. 1 Earthen Vessel, part of a combo. Also, it gets you to energy when you're in like a bad position. You don't have a whole lot of them. 1 Counter Catcher. It's just a searchable off Arven for when you're in a bad spot and you need to bring something out and you don't have access to Boss's Orders. 1 Crushing Hammer. This is going to be replaced with Forest Sealstone when it's come in the mail. I'm still waiting on it, so. 1 Devo, or excuse me, Evo. I don't run Devo in this deck. I was, but because you don't really do a whole lot of damage to benched at all, most times you're just Tinkaton, smack, kill, and then take prize cards. Devo doesn't really serve double utility in this deck, and against other rare candy decks, I feel like I'm just fine because I can just bring something out, kill it, and then I'm done with it. So because I'm not playing Devo, I'm running Lucky Helmet. This card is crazy, but there was an instance where I actually got decked out, and that made me think that maybe running 2 Iono instead of 4 Nemona would help me, So taking out 2 Nemona for 2 Iono could help you in the grind game where you're worried about decking out because your opponent's just repeatedly hitting your Tinkaton over and over. It's just something to be worried about. But for energies, I'm running 2 Reversal Energy. This is just to get you back into the game if you don't have a double turbo and you're behind on prize cards, and it also gives you the normal Tinkaton. The normal Tinkaton's ability of its attack does 80 more damage if it has a special energy attached. So you're doing, I believe, 160 per hit with reversal energy on it. It's not crazy. Most times I don't really ever use it, but the option is there. And the time it did come up, it was very good for me because I was able to just bring a match out. They Iono'd me. I had a reversal energy in hand, or no, it was attached to the Tinkaton. They killed my Tinkaton, I brought out the new one, and I just Lysandered, brought out a Pokemon, killed it, and then took my last prize card. Or double turbo. The minus 20 attack it comes up sometimes, but not a whole lot, so there will be instances where you have to kind of keep track of the cards in your hand and keep track of the damage. There's a lot of instances where I just have a calculator out and I'm just doing the math on my calculator to make sure. And then 2 basic psychic energy. This deck is going to be crazy and expanded, by the way, and it's going to be viable for about another year or 2, I believe, because the Dunsparces don't leave for April of 2026, I believe, or maybe it's 2025, whichever one of those 2. As well as the Tinkatons, so this deck is going to be viable for quite some time. And it could theoretically only get better based on future support. So since the profile is finished, let me just show you a theoretical thing you can do with Arven and just any Pokemon active. So you can Tinkatink, or have Tinkatink here, you can Arven. I usually go second with this deck, little known fact. I usually go second, and it's because of Evo. So you can actually do... And well, I said this was a 1-card combo, but it's technically a 2-card combo, because as long as you have any Pokemon unbenched, you're fine. So like you could pair it with a Buddy Poppin or like a Nest Ball or something. So let's just pair it with a Buddy Poppin. You're gonna Arven for... Where'd it go? Evo and Vessel. Use Vessel, discard a random card. Search your 2 psychic energies if you have them. If one of them is in prize cards, it's fine. So now you go energy on Tinkatink. Often into double Dunsparce. And then here you Evo for double the Dunsparce, so next turn you're drawing 6 cards. And then the other way that you can use Arven here is you can also just straight up grab the Poppin and Evo if you already have an energy in hand, and then do the same exact thing. But another line as well is you can Arven into Aroma, as well as Lucky Helmet, or the Forest Sealstone, or even a Nest Ball. Or excuse me, not a Nest Ball, an Ultra Ball. So here you would go, like, for example, if you already have your setup of multiple Dunsparces, maybe multiple Tinkatinks, here you can simply go Arven into Lucky Helmet, attach the Lucky Helmet to Tinkatink, and you can just Hyper Aroma for the Dunsparce, and then usually based on my hand, I'll go for Tinkatuff. and then you pass turn, evolve these two, you're drawing 6. And then you can evo this theoretically, but usually you want to wait until you've done all your drawing, because most times you'll have a rare candy to just go straight into Tinkaton. Also with the Luminion line, if I can find my Luminion, there it is. So if you're gonna do the Luminion line, or if you want to opt for like a Rotom V or something, it pretty much just any V works. I just like this one because you bench it from hand. You can Ultra Ball for it, you can do a couple things to get to it. So you bench it from hand, you search for a supporter. So in this case you would go Arven, and then you would Arven for Sealstone. So we're gonna pretend this is Sealstone. And then like something else, I guess, like a... Oh yeah, and an item. So like that and Hyper Aroma, just whatever item you need, doesn't really matter. And then you go Sealstone, V-Star ability, into any card in your deck. So it could be a double turbo energy, could be Poffin, Rare Candy, Boss's Orders, Jock, Miriam, Nimona if you really wanted to, anything. So this line is crazy because as long as you can get access to Luminion, Luminion just gets you to the Arven, which gets you to the Sealstone, which gets you anything you need. It's a very crazy interaction, and I'm surprised I haven't seen it more often, to be honest, because I feel like a lot of success that people experience in Pokemon is obviously deck choice, but also technical play, followed by consistency. Consistency is going to get you to your game plan faster, and then past that point, you're relying on your technical play. Which is why I try to make my deck as consistent as possible. Because I know as soon as Tinkaton hits field, I am hitting shit. I am blowing their back out. So just to give you a little test hand here. Okay, so we got a basic for cooking, and we also opened a shit ton of stuff actually. So then prize cards, 6, and then draw. That's actually nuts. Hold up. We're cooking. Okay, so we go second if we win the die roll. And just to show you how this works, Buddy Buddy Poffin, followed by maybe a Nest Ball. So here we go for Dunsparce, and a Tinkatink. I try to have 2 Tinkatink and 2 Dunsparce at any given time, especially at the beginning of the game, and the reason is because they could just open better than you and kill your first Tinkatink up here, if it's up here. Usually I try to keep a Dunsparce up here for the beginning of the game, unless I'm going to Evo and then I just put Tinkatink up, because having the Dunsparce up is a little more important. So with this hand, you can bench the Luminion, and the only issue that the Luminion on benched provides is that your opponent can Boss's Orders it out, so then you have to waste an energy. But that's why we run 1 Earthen Vessel. And you could theoretically just cut the Earthen Vessel and run a switch instead, but I like the Earthen Vessel more because it gets you to the Evo line as well with Arven. So you go search Arven here. Arven for an item and a tool. So I'm just gonna turn the Crushing Hammer inside out for Sealstone. And then now we need an item. So an item. Probably do Rare Candy, to be honest. Also, let me fix this because I know I messed it up a little bit there. Okay, so here you go Sealstone on the Luminian and you V-Star power or any card in your deck. So if I were to V-Star here, it would probably be Tinkaton because I already have Hyper Aroma to get to everything else. And then now you can Lucky Helmet on the Tinkatink. And this is your hand so far. So I think here is a good time to you can just pass turn here. If you really wanted to. You could fire off the Hyper Aroma, but I think firing off the Hyper Aroma is risky because if they Iono you, you're losing all of those to Dunsparces. And you're not likely to draw into one off of what they force you to draw with Iono. So I would just save the Hyper Aroma for next turn. If it was a supporter, I would have fired it off probably. But so you pass turn here, they do all their shit, and you draw. So we drew a Reversal Energy. We can Hyper Aroma. We can Rare Candy into Tinkaton. This Hyper Aroma is going to get us the Dunsparce, Tinkatuff, and the Dunsparce. So now you go to Dunsparce, draw 3. 1, 2, 3. Shuffle it back. And then you go to Dunsparce again. 1, 2, 3. Shuffle it back. Right now we're pretty much just looking for energy so we can start firing off Tinkaton right now. So because we don't really have one, we could just attach a Reversal Energy here. It is kind of unfortunate not getting to more draw power, like a Nemona or something, to get to an energy, but it's okay. So you can Artisan here, bench a Dunsparce. We haven't used a supporter. If we could have drawn into an Ultra Ball, we could have fired off Miriam. For now, we're just gonna go for Jacques, and we're gonna grab a Tinkaton and... Is the other Tinkaton in prize cards? If it is, that kind of sucks. Yep, it is. That's unfortunate. Another Dunsparce. So now, you can just pass turn here. Odds of them killing the Tinkaton are not very high, but it is based on what they're playing. So you draw for turn. If they do hit it, you would draw 2 because of Lucky Helmet. So you draw for turn, we got a Jacques, we're gonna Dunsparce here, and then go draw 3, so there's the double turbo. And there is the energy we needed. So shuffle that back. You could just attach this energy here. Since we don't have the double turbo on it, it's going to be doing max damage, thankfully. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 300 damage. Very nice. That is in fact 300 damage. You can go Artisan, bench, another Dunsparce here. And you can go whack. Take prize cards depending on what deck you're playing. For playtesting purposes, I usually just do 2. Unless the odds are I'm playing against Gardevoir. So we took a Nemona and an Ultra Ball. Pass. Theoretically, they could hit this. We draw 2 off of Lucky Helmet, but... And yeah. That's the deck. I think this deck is underwhelmingly... or... overwhelmingly slept on. I think that it has potential to be a contender right now. because the Dunsparce does so much for the deck, and there's just so many consistency cards in the game right now that you're just able to keep your engine going forever and ever. Once it starts, it's usually very hard to stop. I've been Iono'd for one prize card before, but I was just in such a good position that it didn't matter. Like, I had the Dunsparces on benched, Artisan, Lucky Helmet, the whole setup. So they can Iono you for one, but they just can't do anything after that, because they hit you, you draw 2. And then now you're working with a 3-card hand. And if you have the double turbo with a Psychic Energy on it, then you're doing 140 every turn regardless. Which is, it's not crazy, but it's still something. And those cards that you're going to draw off of the Iono can potentially just be more draw power. Or just the Dunsparces themselves. So like 2, 4, 6, 7, we have our bench. 2, 4, 6, 8. This hand is popping, actually. Holy shit. So we have the Tinkaton here. We can bench the Luminion to search for Arven. We're getting everything here. This is crazy. Search Arven. Theoretically going second. Because, I mean, I drew the 8th card. We go Sealstone here. Search for any card. So, to be honest, what card do I really need here? A Nimona would be pretty good. But I don't think we need a Nimona. So, if I really wanted to, maybe Hyper Aroma. Hyper Aroma would go kind of hard. But actually, no, let's go Tinkaton here. Because we have the rare candies. We go Arven for Evo and Poffin. Unless Evo got... Okay, it didn't get prize carded. Thank God. That's like the only time that Arven feels bad is when Evo gets prize carded. But when that happens, I just search for the Hyper Aroma instead of, like, the Poffin. So you go Poffin here. Obviously, energy on the Tinkatink. Poffin for double Dunsparce. Evo on the Tinkatink. And then you just Evo both Dunsparces. This detaches on end turn. You pass, comes back to you. You draw for turn. Another Arven, that's pretty good. We've grabbed all 3 tools though, which is unfortunate, but it's okay, because we can Dunsparce here. 1, 2, 3. Shuffle it back. And then we go the Dunsparce, 1, 2, 3. Shuffle it back. Now you can just Artisan, just play your whole hand out. Well, not your whole hand, but you know what I mean. Maybe Arven here for something. How many cards do we have actually? Maybe the boss's orders would be better. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you could boss's order something out and then just kill it if you wanted to after attaching another energy, so probably do that. Or you could just Arven here. Ooh, actually Arven for Hyper Aroma would go kind of hard. Because then you're filling your hand with 2 more cards. So it's more damage. And then you can safely bench it Dunsparce from deck with Artisan. Aroma for... You know, Aroma... You know what we were using Aroma for. Okay, so now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 300 damage. Smack. Take 2 prize cards. And you're popping. So yeah, that's the deck. Hope you guys enjoyed. I know I usually make Yu-Gi-Oh content, and then occasionally horror stuff or like commentary stuff. But I've been playing Pokemon a lot recently, and it's a card game that I love, and I've been having more fun with than Yu-Gi-Oh at the moment. Plus, Tinkaton is just my favorite Pokemon. Eventually, when I get full art Ionos, I'm going to be running 2 of those in this as well, maybe. Pretty sure I am. But, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later. Have a good one.